I've always had an absolute passion for four-wheel driving and for exploring Australia, and as the years kind of change in your life, the vehicles tend to change. So in my younger years, I'd built up this amazing Suzuki Sierra.
One of the vehicles I definitely remember Dad having as I was growing up was Otis.
I put 35-inch tyres under it, big lift, Commodore V6 under the bonnet.
It was massive. It was up on big tyres. It looked like a comp truck. And I always remember being really excited when Mum would finally let us go out for a drive in it because she thought it was too unsafe.
As I got a little bit older and started to have kids, I started to build slightly more sensible vehicles. I built up a Land Cruiser 100 series.
I do remember the Camel Cruiser in the driveway and Mum needing a step to get into the car.
And a Defender that was a bit of a desert tourer, Defender 130.
One of the craziest trips I've been on with Dad was when he bought an ex-Army Unimog. Didn't inspect it. We just sort of booked the flights and flew to Darwin to pick this Unimog up.
This adventure is a little bit different to most of the other ones that I do, and it involves the crew that I've got. In fact, I'd like to turn the camera back onto my crew. Here we have Bill. He's our cameraman on this adventure.
Hello.
And over here we have Gusso. You're looking forward to this trip back with the old man?
Uh-huh.
Good stuff. Well, let's get into it.
So we drove the Unimog from Darwin back to Sydney in about 7 days, sweltering hot, and we did get to do a little bit of four-wheel driving in it, even though we were kind of just rushing back to Sydney as fast as we could. It was a lot of fun.
So the question was, if I still wanted to keep on building 4x4s, what was I going to build now that was going to suit me for this time in my life? I haven't really been building up vehicles for quite a while, so I guess I've had something in the back of my brain just sort of tearing at me to think I should probably be building a car that is a lot of fun again. And then I went over to the Perth 4x4 show and I just saw all these super tourer style four-wheel drives, but every single one of them were Toyotas, and often they were their 79 series. Really cool looking car, big V8 under the bonnet. But in a lot of ways, they need a whole lot of help. The track of the vehicle is actually too skinny. It's skinnier in the back than in the front. So I started to sort of compare that vehicle and go, well, that as a base vehicle to modify, sure, it looks cool, but it is really quite expensive. If I was to look at an Amarok, that kind of made a bit more sense. It comes with an auto transmission. It's got a supremely powerful engine. I'm sponsored by them, so that made it a bit easier. But on top of that, it's actually got a super strong chassis. So if you want to modify anything, you've got to make sure that the backbone is solid. And with an Amarok, I know that it is. I want to build my ultimate 4x4. I don't think there's a better place to build the ultimate touring 4x4 than right here in Australia. And that is what I intend to do.
The starting point is an Amarok 580 V6, and that 580 stands for 580 Newton meters of torque. To start the build, the V6 headed to Adelaide to Adaptive Manufacturing, where they were about to create the first XXL Amarok in Australia. The kit itself is manufactured in the Netherlands by a company called Veth, and then welded in place in Australia. The bonus of this kit is that not only is it well engineered, it's also covered by a factory warranty. Not to mention the ABS, AdBlue and traction control is modified to suit the longer wheelbase. I chose the 650mm chassis extension because it's going to allow for more storage space in the canopy build later on and give me better load carrying capacity by moving the axle towards the rear.
But as I found out, it's not all roses when you're first in the country to do something.
I am a little bit frustrated because while this major surgery on my vehicle is going on behind these walls, I can't see it. It's all top secret. No one is allowed to see the tools, the manufacturing techniques. I can't show you, I can't let our cameras in. I've just been told to trust them.
The rock then went to Melbourne and landed in the capable hands of Mark Dernbauer from Net 4x4. Now, I hadn't seen the car since I left Adelaide.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she's definitely a bit longer now.
That is crazy. Yeah. You hear these dimensions of 650 millimetres and you go, oh yeah, whatever. That looks closer to a metre to me. And now it's kind of got that sort of lowrider feel about it because you stretch it, which is why I brought it to you, mate. We jack them up here, right?
Yeah, that's it. We get their bellies off the ground.
Oh wow, this is going to be fun.
Let me tell you a bit about this guy. After buying an Amarok in 2012, Mark started building his own gear for it. Word spread in the Amarok community about what Mark was doing. Put simply, people wanted his stuff. And Net 4x4 has been creating some of the most sought-after Amarok accessories ever since.
Just loved tinkering around with stuff, and before the family moved to the farm, I was already building, motorbikes out of, Dad's old lawnmower. So when we moved to the farm, it was just like open slather. So for me to build cars was just a natural progression from there.
Mark runs his business from his shed so he can be there for his daughter Annika, who suffers from Rett syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that affects her body's development and her ability to communicate.
Our youngest has Rett syndrome, so she's 100% reliant on us. She's in a wheelchair. For us, it's not hard work, it's just everyday life. She comes out in the workshop with me, while I'm out there working and doing stuff, so it's good. Annika loves getting out. The rougher, the better. Annika goes everywhere with us. It can be quite challenging, but it's still fun at the same time. In 2014, we did a trip with 2 other families on covering the Simpson. In 2016, we did Cape York. It was a 5-week trip up Cape York. We love the outdoors. We love to get out there and do things out in the bush. I was diagnosed with MS about a month after we got back from Cape York in 2016. It can be restrictive in some states, but, we just, take each day as it comes and keep going.
Despite these challenges, Mark is just an incredible bloke who really perseveres and has built Net 4x4 into what it is today. Mark now had a few weeks to work on the vehicle before we needed to put the Amarok through its paces for engineering. He began the process by first lifting the vehicle. Next up was the suspension lift using a Net 4x4 kit. Mark upgraded the springs to 500 kilogram heavy duty leaf springs. The rear shock absorbers were also upgraded to suit the additional height. Mark uses special cold wound heavy duty coils to account for the additional weight of the bull bar and winch combo. New upper control arms were also fitted, which allowed us the clearance we needed to fit the bigger tyres. We made the choice to fit Delta 4x4 18x9-inch wheels. And we wrapped them in thumping big 35 by 12.5-inch BF Goodrich KM3 tyres. Mark lopped a whopping 47mm to allow the wheels their full range of movement. And to make it look pretty and legal, he fitted a set of flares over the top. Mark also fitted a pair of his fancy Net 4x4 recovery points. With all the work completed and engineering just days away, I was back at Net 4x4 to check out the progress.
Mark?
How you going, Pat?
Oh, mate, I'm happy now that I've seen this.
Yeah.
What a monster.
Yeah, she's fairly big, isn't she?
Oh, that's crazy, mate.
Yeah, she's right up there now.
Oh, wow. Folks, to give you some perspective, check the height of this. My shoulder, top of it here, Mark's truck over here, 40mm lift on this truck. That's where mine is. So your regular Amarok is probably around about there somewhere without that 40mm lift. So we're talking about mega lift, but let's have a look out the front because this is where all the problems tend to happen when you've got a vehicle with independent suspension. Mate, I've got to say though, absolutely brilliant job. That looks just mint.
Lifting a 4x4 this high requires what's called a second stage manufacturing compliance. You can't just go out there and jack your car up like I have. You've really got to get it signed off by an engineer.
So Mark, a whole lot of work's been put into this truck, a lot of time and effort, but we've still got some pretty serious hurdles.
Big one with the engineering, and there's a lot of engineering in it. Tyres, speedo, noise test, re-engineering for the rear axle, GVM upgrade.
Wow. Yeah. So folks, so much time, so much money's been put into this truck. If it fails, we are going to be way behind schedule, and it's going to cost us a lot more money to try and fix up problems that an engineer may not like. So I'm slightly concerned at this stage because I don't have the time to hold the hand of this car for the next couple of weeks. We've got to get it on the road so that we can get it out in the bush and start playing with it.
The day of engineering arrives in the town of Anglesey on the Victorian coastline. It's wet and it's blowing a gale. Not ideal for the bitumen testing of a jacked up 4x4 on mud terrain tyres. The testing involves covering the Amarok in sensors to assess things like body roll and brake temperatures, and there's a laptop in the cabin recording the results live. To simulate a load, 1.2 tonnes of shot bags were loaded into the tub and strapped down. All testing would be done with the vehicle loaded up.
What's the aim to test out there today, mate?
So today we'll initially focus on testing the brakes. So we're looking for a lot more load carrying capacity, so we need to be satisfied that the brakes will come up to scratch at that heavier load compared to a standard Amarok.
Okay, so brake testing is go. What about swerve testing and noise testing today?
Swerve testing could be a little bit interesting with the amount of precipitation. I would rather keep it shiny side up, so we'll see. Once we get a bit of dry track, we'll look at doing those tests.
Okay, good stuff. Oh well, let's get into it, I guess.
First up was the brake testing. To say I was nervous is an understatement. But time after time, she pulled up straight and true. Phew, first test passed. Then the handbrake was tested on various degree inclines. Again, easy pass. We had delayed the all-important swerve testing, hoping the weather would clear. It didn't. The track was soaking wet, but with confidence gained from the other tests, Tom was happy to give the swerve test a crack. This could be a make or break moment for the Amarok. Tom started off slow and progressively ramped up the speeds to over 100 kilometres per hour. But every time, the rock sailed through with minimal body roll. But let's put this in perspective. We've got a vehicle here with a 5.5-inch lift, mud terrain tyres on a wet track, and a 1.2 tonne load in the back. Yet it sailed through these tests just easily. I was blown away.
Well, Tom, that looked good, mate, but how did it feel from your seat?
Yeah, it looked surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, really good. For a car on big tyres with a quite long wheelbase, just drove straight through.
Wow, awesome. Well, I'm a happy camper, folks. We've nailed the brake test, fully laden, we've also nailed the lane change test. So it's looking good for the V6.
With the Amarok passing its engineering test with flying colours, it was now back to net 4x4 to throw the car on the trailer before heading up to Queensland.
How's the MS been going while you've been working on the truck?
Yeah, not bad. A few Red Bulls here and there. Tick me over the line. The fatigue's a big factor with the MS. It just sort of kicks in and it just sort of drags you down. Just keep motoring along. That's all you can do.
Yeah,
Just sitting there whinging about it. It's not going to help you. For me, I've got no choice. I've got to get up every morning because I'm the primary carer for the girls. So for me, that's a drive to get up in the morning. It's a reason to get up.
And mate, all the while where you've been primary carer and having massive challenges, you've been pushing it till like 2 o'clock in the morning, often nights on this thing. Yeah. I feel bad with what I've put you through, except for the fact that I know you kind of enjoy it.
I do. I don't mind it. I actually, like a challenge, and I like interesting projects, and this has certainly been that.
And mate, you have made the hard stuff happen. So yeah, look, really massive thanks, mate. I'm absolutely thrilled.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure.
Yep, this way.
And so began our long drive out of Melbourne and up the Newell Highway into Queensland. A little sad, really, to think that my old V6 just might be towing its replacement for the TV show. I was headed to Crestmead to sit down with the team at Camp King Industries. We're going to build my dream canopy. At the helm of Camp King Industries are husband and wife team Sarah and Lucas. Starting out small, they explain what they had to do to get ahead.
We're both very sort of vision-focused and hungry people. We've both got a really strong work ethic. A lot of people turn stuff away. We're like, no, we'll have a go at that. We'll do it because we want to succeed at it. We were always able to still deliver the quality.
As a fabricator, I like to build things and you like try new things and be able to do that kind of stuff. And as well, surround yourself by staff who do as well.
Lucas and Sarah love nothing more than taking the family camping, and they love to get outdoors, which gave them an idea.
So we thought we'd just combine our love of what we do with the manufacturing and our love of camping and being outdoors and enjoying products, good Australian-made products, and we thought, well, we'll just merge that together, and Camp King was born.
Since 2016, they've gone from strength to strength, with their rooftop tents being featured on builds at SEMA in Las Vegas, and now they're exporting their gear right around the world. I've been keeping an eye on what Camp King were building, and when I first called them about doing our crew car canopy, they didn't believe it was actually me.
We first got the message, we got a message, oh, Pat Callinans called, he wants to talk to you. And I remember Sarah's like, are you for real? Like, that's not, you know, like, you're joking, aren't you?
So I said, well, I'll get his number, and if it is him, I'll ring him back tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll call him back tomorrow, it's all right.
And then, lo and behold, I called Pat back the next day. It was Pat, which was probably the most shocking part of that phone call, because I thought it was, Lucas had given me a dodgy number. We had a great conversation, and Pat was aware of what we'd been doing. Pat was, he'd been following what we were doing. Talked about some upcoming projects he'd had and asked us if we'd like to be involved in that. And we said, yeah, we're in.
Now it was time for me to throw Lucas some of my crazy ideas for the canopy build.
This is the first incarnation before I decided to go silly and extend it to 650 mil.
Yeah. This is your 350 mil extended one. Obviously now that we've seen the vehicle, we can change that.
So mate, this is full draftsman design for a canopy on the back of a ute.
Yeah. Customer obviously gets an idea of what they're going to look like, you know what I mean? Rather than going, oh, can you build me a canopy or tray, and go, yeah, mate, and then cross their fingers and hope they're going to get what they, you know, what they want.
And I suppose, like, the more I think about these things, the more I think we're kind of building a tiny house, aren't we? I mean,
pretty much.
You've got, you know, we're talking water tanks, we're talking electrics, coffee machines and beer taps and all sorts of stuff. So it's not that dissimilar.
Working with these guys is just a dream. They're four-wheel drivers, they're campers, so they just get it.
Okay, so now that you know the extent of the damage, mate, time-wise, what do you reckon we're looking at here?
We'd push for a month, you know what I mean, I reckon. By the time we got it, like, you're talking like paint and fit out and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, mate, there's a lot of details that I didn't even really realise until I was sitting down here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
I'm glad you are, mate, because you could look at it two ways. You go, holy, what have I got myself into?
Oh, mate,
I like the positive.
like I said, like, if I didn't enjoy doing it, I'd be like, oh God, here we go again. Yeah. But you know, I honestly enjoy it.
Just realise you're an enabler. You enable people like me to do this. You're part of the problem and the solution.
Oh no, it's all good, man. I love it.
My next stop with the Ultimate Amarok is to get some custom-made exhausts manufactured. Now, one of the joys of this project has been learning the stories of these not-so-small Aussie companies that help make our vehicular dreams come true. I caught up with Brian from Bow Desert Exhaust to learn a little bit more about their story.
37 years ago I started. I started an exhaust shop in 1982. 10 years later I met a hell of a nice Dutch guy by the name of Henk van den Heuvel, and I wanted to buy a manual bending machine, and he set me up. On and on it went, and we've moved forward, and we've got 8 machines. We can bend nearly anything we want. Scanning machines, we can scan anything we want. If you want something made, it's no problem to us, we can do it.
And here are my gorgeous exhausts, made from 441 stainless steel. It seems a shame that they're under the car. The reason the Beaudesert exhaust boys use 441 stainless is because it will retain that polished look over time. That, and it's less prone to fractures over rough outback roads. I can expect an additional 4 or 5 kilowatts in power out of this setup, and it will work particularly well with what I've got planned under the bonnet later on. From Beaudesert, it's back on the trailer and up over the range to Toowoomba. This is the home of Diesel Care. Four-wheel drivers love power, but long-distance desert tourers like me, we love safe power. I've been using the Steinbauer modules for around a decade, and what I like about them is they don't push it too far. Sure, they give you more power, but they gradually wind back power to standard if you're at full throttle for an extended period. So, no silly exhaust gas temperatures that could get you into trouble.
What sort of power are we going to be looking about getting additionally when we install the Steinbauer?
Steinbauer operate on a 20% performance gain and get it most times. And there's some vehicles we squeeze a little bit more, but 20% is what we're happy with. That's a nice, safe increase in output.
How long are we talking about for the installation?
This car, it's probably going to be about an hour to an hour and a half to fit. The unfortunate thing about this vehicle is that it's not going to fit on our dyno because you've gone ahead and put this much in the chassis, which is outside the wheelbase that we can work with. So we're just going to do a straight installation on this one.
Okay, mate, well, I guess we better plug this bad boy in, hey?
Still in Queensland, I headed to Direction Plus to have a few more gadgets fitted under the bonnet. First was a pre-lined diesel filter to keep the water and gunk out of my V6. It's even got an alarm that sounds in the cabin if it senses water in my diesel. After that, Jeremy from Direction Plus bolted in a ProVent oil separator to keep the engine free of oil and soot contamination.
So that'll stop your engine from being clogged up with the four-wheel drive version of cholesterol, removing that oil out of the blow-by gases.
Fantastic, mate.
Well, it's one thing to get your 4x4 to go, but it's another getting it to stop. I'll be adding a fair bit of weight to my Amarok, so I ducked over to Rugged Brakes R&D headquarters to see if I could buy myself some more stopping power. With a heritage of motorsport behind them, the Rugged team know performance, but they also know life in the pits. If they make something, it has to be easy to service with the ability to brake like a slot car. Just feast your eyes on all of this aluminium goodness. Not only is it lighter than the factory brakes, its 6-piston self-cleaning design means that this Amarok will stop on a dime, not just on the bitumen, but in the mud too.
So we've managed to be able to get the two-piece rotor with a 6-piston caliper in your vehicle for you today.
Fantastic, mate. And I noticed this fancy big Z pattern across the back here. What's that for? It's not just marketing?
The hydraulic pressure that in your braking system on a hard braking application can get up to 2,400 PSI. So that holds it all, makes it a lot more rigid, firmer pedal under brake.
Mate, great work on the design here. I'd better get out of your way and let you get into it.
We'll get into it.
Okay, this is where I get to play with the toys and test them out. So we've got the trade plates on, and I am going to see how this vehicle stops. Wow. That was quick and confident. First impressions are fantastic.
So, with the engine, exhaust, brakes and under-bonnet upgrades sorted, it was time to take the Amarok back to Camp King on Brizzy's south side. And I was in for a little surprise.
Oh, is this just arrived?
Yeah.
Hello. Well, this is the box, literally just arrived in the driveway, guys. And, wow, they've done an awesome job.
I had to leave the Amarok for a month or so while I traipsed across the deserts filming. So when I got back, I was keen to see how she was going. I'm on my way to Camp King to see the new custom canopy for the very first time.
I dead set feel like a 5-year-old on Christmas Eve at the moment. I am pumped with anticipation as to what I'm going to see when I drive through those gates at Camp King.
That'd be right. The buggers put the roller shutters down.
Open the door.
Oh, okay. Hello guys, how are you? Sorry, I don't want to spend much time with you guys. No, how are you? Good to see you, good to see you. Oh, wow, wow. Oh, that is beautiful. No way. Jeez, that looks tough, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Can I have a look inside?
Of course you can, yeah.
When I saw that vehicle in the flesh and when the guys opened up those canopy doors, my jaw just dropped.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've got these.
It's like a going.
Oh
set up,
my goodness, how good is that?
Like all the stuff, so.
Oh man, I gotta pinch myself. This is my truck.
This was beyond my wildest dreams. They've done just an incredible job. It's going to be hard to get me out of this bed each morning.
Well, I can't believe that side's incredible.
Well, wait till you see what is in here for you.
Your coffee machine.
Amazing.
Look at this. But look what's behind it. Oh boy.
Pantry setup. So you can store whatever. You know.
Oh, no way.
Every person in this workshop had a hand in this build for you. Like they all, in some which way, shape or form, helped or put their thoughts or opinions in and just all come together yesterday and it was just amazing.
Oh, so happy, so happy, so happy. Bring it in, guys. I want to get you. Oh, that is so good. Yeah, man, I can't believe that this is my vehicle. It just drives so well now. It's incredible.
Now that the real guts of the project had been done, it was time to bring it back to Sydney and put a little bit of icing on the cake.
The ARB Moorebank and Narellan teams hooked right in, wiring up the intensity driving lights. The RMAX snorkel was also mounted up, which proved a little challenging over the top of the oversized bushwhacker flares. The guys also made use of the Camp King toolboxes to mount an ARB twin compressor. To control that compressor, there's a nifty little ARB link system in the cabin. And inside, the boys plumbed in a Uniden UHF CB radio. The Bushranger Revo winch was also wired up at ARB. It's a really sweet 10,000 pound unit, and with its synthetic winch rope, you save a few kilos over the wire rope. And to literally cap it all off, a Rhino Tradesman roof rack was bolted upstairs, with a Red Arc solar panel, some Tread Pro recovery boards, and of course, the obligatory ARB light bars. This Desert Trekker is somewhat of a camel thanks to two thumping big new tanks underneath. Built out the back of Newcastle by Long Ranger, they'll give me over 1,300 kilometres between fills.
I just could not believe just how well this project panned out. I know that I've got my ultimate touring 4x4. I'm back in the Blue Mountains now, but we are just about ready to take this vehicle on its christening run across to Perth. But so much has happened in the last couple of weeks that I'm dying to show you. One of the big things is our electrical system on this vehicle. It is powered by 4 Revolution lithium batteries. These are 60 amp hour each, and they are designed for really quick discharge. So you can put all sorts of things attached up to this, and you can draw the power out real fast and then pump it straight back in just as fast. So it is really a pretty serious system, but what they are connected up to is pretty amazing.
The brains of the unit is a RedArc battery management system with Red Vision for diagnostics and monitoring. This allows me to remotely monitor things like power usage, lights, even monitor fridge temps from my smartphone. But here's where it gets interesting. I've installed a 3000 watt inverter, which allows me to run incredible appliances. So I'm dispensing with the gas and I'm running an induction cooker and a household coffee machine. I can even run a pressure cooker.
Keep on coming and I shall show you some of the rest of this vehicle. So you'll appreciate we've got the tent up top, nice and comfy, but you might be wondering what this little contraption is here in the back. Now this is my diesel heater, folks. This up here is the little diesel engine here, and this is the fuel tank. And basically it pumps hot air up there, and underneath the vehicle is a tiny little exhaust pipe that pops out so you don't have to suck in any fumes or anything. But the beauty of these units are that they will heat up all the air inside really, really quickly. So it is super comfortable. There's a little thermostat dial that allows you to set the temperature that you want upstairs. In terms of how much fuel they consume, how much power they consume, it is incredibly minimal. The capacity of this tank will run over 100 hours of diesel heating, and the 12 volt power that they tend to use is absolutely minimal. So my batteries went down by 1% overnight. So in terms of being efficient, they are amazing. Now this is a Webasto unit. You can get cheaper units out of China and stuff, but when it comes to a unit that is running while I'm literally asleep, I want to trust it, and Webasto is obviously one of the biggest brands in this space. Let me show you some of the goodies I've installed on the other side. I mentioned before about some of the accessories that I have installed being kind of like your house, and this is one of them. Folks, this is a ceramic cooktop, the sort that you would find in your house, and this draws 2,900 watts when both of these burners are firing. The reason I love it is because, well, firstly, it is actually quite cheap. That thing itself cost me like 200 bucks off eBay. But what this allows me to do is to not take gas around with me. So it really is cool to know that those lithium batteries have essentially replaced the gas. So now I'm not carrying gas bottles, I'm not having to worry about filling them up. And it's also so much easier to keep clean. So when the spag bowl does the big vomit over the top, it is really easy to clean up. Speaking of cleaning up, we have a nice little storage compartment in here. This is where I store our little chopping board, but we've also got a sink that can also be thrown in there as well. That's a fold-up sink. Have a look at this. This is my pull-out pantry. So if I simply undo a few things here, fold this out, hang that up there, and there, my friends, is the pantry. Now, you might have noticed there is a coffee machine staring at me. That coffee machine, it chews around about 1,600 watts of power. But I've got a 3,000 watt inverter, so I can run that. And this is literally the ones where they grind the beans and everything. But it makes an amazing coffee. Over this project, we have done many, many different things. We have installed many rather amazing accessories, but I don't know if too many are as amazing as this one. And I'm so happy with it. It involves this little thing here. This is my beer tap, but it's what's behind the beer tap is what is really cool. Have a look at this, folks. Behind the coffee machine sits a rather large keg. That is 50 litres of ice cold beer that you're looking at. Well, it's not exactly ice cold, but I'll tell you how the ice cold actually happens.
The beer starts its journey at room temperature in the 50-litre keg before the carbon dioxide pushes it through the beer lines and into the chiller plate sitting at the base of the fridge. The chiller plate is made up of 15 metres of cold alloy tubes, so the beer arrives warm and exits ice cold out through the beer tap that I've installed in the front of the fridge.
But let me show you how it all works. It works like this, folks. And I don't know too many people that would be happier than me right now. That is cold. But the icing on the cake of this system, as if it couldn't get any better, it does. My friends at Red Arc have wired up a flow meter. Now that means that through my Red Vision system and my Red Vision app on my phone, I can tell how much beer I've got in my keg at any time. Is that not glorious? I think that's glorious. I'm stoked. So, you know, if I'm coming into Birdsville, I'm running low, I simply whip the keg out and replenish it at the pub and keep on going. When it comes to beverages, I can fizz my water, I can make a great coffee, and I can pour a beer. And that, to me, folks, makes me one of the happiest four-wheel drivers in the developed world. There is one last little accessory that I am dying to show you, and it happens to be up in my tent. Check this out, folks. We have a projector screen that I've mounted on the top of my Camp King canopy. It is such a good angle, and I just got it designed up and basically Velcroed to the roof to make it look like it is an old Rank Arena TV. We've got a mini projector there that costs around about $400 and runs off USB power, and really this allows me to watch whatever I like, pretty much wherever I like. So if I download movies onto my phone, I can pump them up onto the big screen in my own tent.
Now it was time for the Royal Christening, a run across the continent on our way to the Perth 4x4 show, and via some of the coolest spots I know.
This to me is just such a nice way to christen this vehicle.
Fowler's Bay, off the coast of South Australia. What a magnificent slice of Aussie coastline. The view from up in that tent was just superb, and what a view to wake up to. And if the view wasn't awesome enough, a freshly brewed coffee made it even better. With a belly full of caffeine, it was time to explore the dunes. But not before we aired the tyres down with the fancy tyre spider system.
I just couldn't believe just how well this vehicle went, you know, whether it's driving, sleeping out of it, pulling a beer out of. This vehicle is dead set my ultimate touring 4x4. I'm as happy as a brolga in Birdsville.
When you're so close to a magic place like Esperance, you would be mad not to stop in and admire the view. And test out the new Darchie 270 awning. Wave Rock is on the way too, where the surf's always up.
How was the surf, mate?
It's awesome.
And we had made it to Perth. And the project really has come full circle. The Perth 4x4 show, where I dreamt up this idea of the ultimate 4x4, and now I was able to show it off.
What do you think of the ultimate Amarok? Awesome. You go bush, you can stay bush forever, couldn't you? Especially with the beer and the coffee. That's two important things camping, fishing. It's the beer. Yeah, awesome.
You know, at the end of all this, we called it the ultimate 4x4 tourer, and for me, I've actually achieved it. And I found that out when I was travelling across the Nullarbor with Bill, and when I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have the coffee and it was just stunningly beautiful, or I'd be camping upstairs overnight, it'd get a bit chilly, so I'd put the diesel heater on, or I'd be loping across this corrugated dirt road, and the vehicle is riding and steering and handling and stopping just beautifully. The way that everything's come together on this project has just blown me away. I'm so thankful of all the people that have put their heart and soul and blood, sweat and tears essentially into the project. I'm so glad that they did it, because they've helped me build my ultimate touring 4x4.
That's the final episode of Season 12. To stay up to date on all things 4x4, be sure to sign up to our free newsletter at mr4x4.com.au. I'm Pat Callinan, and until next time, keep the shiny side up.